So you're thinking of moving to Salem, Oregon, but you want to know the pros and the cons, the good and the bad. Well, you're in the right spot because that's what we're talking about in today's video. Let's get right to it. If you're new to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Salem, Oregon, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you can stay up to date on the current market here in Salem. My name is Ryan Welty and I'm a real estate agent here in Salem, Oregon. And I get calls and texts from people just like you who are thinking of moving to the Willamette Valley. So whether you need to move in 10 days or 100 days, feel free to give me a call, text, email, or schedule a Zoom call with me. All of my information is in the description below. So I'd be happy to help you make a smooth move to Salem, Oregon. And as I mentioned in the intro today, we are talking about the pros and cons of living here in Salem. I have a few topics we're going to talk about and give the benefits and downfalls of both. Then at the end, I have just a few things you should probably consider before you move here. And our first topic is going to be the location of Salem. Now, Salem is not centrally located in the state, but it is centrally located in the Willamette Valley, which is where the biggest population in Salem is. And now Salem is centered between Portland and Eugene, which makes it very convenient to get to either of those cities. So if you have to commute to either of those, it is a good spot for you for that reason. It is also very close to the coast, which is about an hour away, which is Lincoln City. And then, of course, a few hours to get to the mountains. There's 2 hours to get to Sisters and 3 hours to Bend from Salem. So location is nice and convenient if you're trying to get places. Some of the cons of Salem and really just the Willamette Valley in general is there's only one interstate that goes north and south to connect Portland to Eugene down to Medford. And if there's a crash or an accident on those, there's not a lot of good ways around it. So if you live in Salem and you have to commute to Portland, you're definitely going to be expecting some traffic along with that commute. And if you're commuting during those heavy traffic hours in the morning around 8 or in the afternoon, really anytime between 3 and 6, expect to hit some slowdowns. And all the alternative routes to get around them really don't help you that much. There's some through McMinnville, but going east of I-5, there aren't very many good options. And when those traffic events do happen, everyone else has Google Maps or the Waze apps, which is probably the best one. But they're also going around I-5 and trying to get on those little back roads, and those really get gummed down also. So it can be a little bit of a grind getting back, especially if you're commuting every day to Portland back to Salem. It's not every day of the week. I used to drive through Portland quite a bit, and if you miss those rush hours, you can get through fairly easily. But if your job requires you to be there and be driving during those rush hours, it can be a little bit annoying. Okay, and then topic number 2 is going to be the climate here of Oregon. Now, I really enjoy the climate here of Oregon, and there's not much for me that's bad about it. Salem is right on the 45th parallel, which means we have really even seasons. We have the nice 3 months of every single season. It really gives a nice variety to the year where you're not just in summer all the time like you might be down in California. And also our summers and our winters are very mild compared to other places. The summers don't get that hot. Our summer averages are somewhere in the 80s, and the winters don't get that cold. It doesn't snow that often. It doesn't get below freezing, at least during the daytimes, that often. I talk a little bit more about the weather in a video where I talk about things I really like about Salem. So if you want a little bit more in depth on that topic, go check out that one. Now, the bad side of the weather here in Oregon is going to be the rain or the cloudy weather. The stereotype of Oregon is that it's always raining all winter and spring. While that's not completely true, it does rain quite a bit. It is overcast and cloudy quite a bit in the winter and spring months. It doesn't bother me because you have plenty of dry days in there to get out and do things. Some people, it really does bother them, especially if you're coming maybe from a sunny climate like California, maybe Nevada, Arizona, something like that. You come here, it could be quite a shock to you as you get quite a bit of that rain weather, and sometimes you might feel like you're trapped inside, and people with seasonal affective disorder might get a little depressed in the winters. So that might be something to consider if that applies to you. You can always try to get one of those happy lights or make sure you have a lot of friends around you and have lots of activities to keep you busy in the winter. So there are some options if you still need to move to Salem and that's something you're dealing with also. And then topic number 3 is going to be agriculture. Now, the Willamette Valley is famous for having a lot of agriculture in the valley. There are actually 170 different commercial crops that are grown in the valley. So that's not just Salem, but that's the farmland around Salem up to Portland and Eugene area. And I really enjoy driving through the countryside, and you see a lot of different crops, and you kind of play the guessing game of what is that farmer growing. The benefit in the summer is that there's a farmer's market here in Salem and in Independence, and you can go there and get fresh produce, fresh fruit, and check out all the things that the farmers are growing in their farms. Also, if you're a fan of picking berries, you pick berry farms are fairly common around Salem. And this is where you can just go to the farm and you can pick blueberries, strawberries, blackberries. There's some that do grapes, not quite as common to find those, but there are lots of options and lots of places you can go on the weekends if you're trying to go. You pick some nice produce. Now, the downside to all that agriculture is all of the pollen. So if you're someone with seasonal allergies, it can be a rough time in the spring. Specifically May and June, I think, are the worst allergen months. I used to not have any allergies, but even I feel it a little bit when the pollen counts are really high. One of the biggest crops in the valley is grass seed, and when the grass starts shedding its pollen, the pollen counts can get really high. And so definitely something to consider. Maybe investing in a lot of Claritin or other allergy medications, or staying inside where you have an air purifier. Unfortunately, also with this, the pollen is coming out in the springtime, in the early summer when it's nice to be outside. So it's kind of a little paradox there where you don't really want to be outside because of the allergens, but you want to be outside because it's the nice weather after that rainy winter. Topic number 5 is going to be taxes. Now, unfortunately, Oregon has fairly high state income tax, so that's going to be added on to the federal income tax when you work here. Oregon does have a range of taxes depending on your income level. I think it's from 4.5 to 9.9. So if you're not in that top income bracket, maybe it doesn't affect you quite as much. But if you are in that top income bracket, it's one of the higher in the country. I think New York and California are higher, but most other states are a little bit lower to quite a bit lower than Oregon is. But because we have that state income tax, Oregon is one of the few states that has no sales tax, which is nice because when you go to the store, the price you see on the shelves is what you actually pay at the counter. Some states have the no sales tax on food, but Oregon actually has it on everything. There are 2 exceptions though, gasoline and tobacco products. I think it might just be cigarettes that have a sales tax. But with gasoline, the sales tax is incorporated in the price you see at the pump, so you're not going to be paying extra over what they're displaying. It's just already factored into the price they're showing you. Now, the 5th topic we're going to talk about is the cost of housing. Now, this one really varies on where you are from. Some people are going to think Salem is really expensive, and some people are going to think Salem's kind of a cheap discount area and they can do an upgrade. So it all depends on where you're coming from, whether or not you're going to move here and say, ooh, prices are really expensive, or hey, houses are a little cheaper, maybe we can upgrade when we move there. Just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of prices around here, I went to Redfin and I found what they are saying for prices. And right now, this is July of 2023. The average price of a household in the nation is $426,000. Now in Salem, we are a little bit higher than that, but not as much as you might think. We are at $440,000 for the average house. Now in the Willamette Valley, Salem is actually one of the cheaper places to live, especially when you compare it to Portland. Portland is at $560,000 for the average house, and Eugene is between Salem and Portland and is at $490,000 for the average house. So again, depending on where you are moving from, when you're looking at Salem, Oregon, our prices might seem good or bad to you. So that is another thing to consider when looking in the area, and whether or not you want to move to Salem or one of the surrounding areas. And the last topic we're going to talk about is the crime in Salem. Now, obviously, there's no good side to the crime here in Salem. It is just what it is, and I definitely recommend you look into the area you're looking into moving in. There's definitely different areas of Salem that have higher crime rates and lower crime rates. I'm just going to give you Salem as a whole, but if you want to drill down maybe into neighborhoods more specifically, feel free to give me a call. I'd be happy to talk with you a little bit more in depth about the specific areas you are interested in. But the one good thing when you're looking at crime in Salem is the crime is mostly those petty property crimes and not the violent assault crimes. So when you compare Salem to the national statistics, on the violent crime side, assault is a little bit higher than the national statistics, but the rest of them are quite a bit lower. But unfortunately, when you go over to that property crime, this is going to be people stealing and breaking and entering. And those tend to be a little bit higher, especially motor vehicle theft, which there are some areas in Salem that are worse than others again. And then you can also compare Portland to Salem, and then Portland is going to be higher in almost in all these categories. If you want to do some more research on your own, there's a link in the description to niche.com where you can do your own research on the more specific neighborhoods you're interested in. And then the next topic is going to be schools here in Salem. Now, Salem, of course, has lots of public schools. There are 48 elementary schools, 15 middle schools, and 9 high schools. There are also a number of private charter schools, which you can check out if you don't want to enroll in the public school system. There are obviously too many schools for me to cover in this video, so I recommend doing your own research, especially since it really drills down to a specific neighborhood that you're living in, which will dictate which schools will be available for your kids or your family to go to. After you go out of high school, there are quite a few options here for continuing education. Salem has Chemeketa Community College, which is a great option, and you can often get 2 years of free college education there. And there's several other community colleges in the towns around us. Salem also has 2 universities in it. There is Corbin College, which is a Christian university, and then there is Willamette University, which is mainly a law university, and it is actually located in downtown Salem. There's also quite a few universities within an hour's drive. Just the state schools are going to be Oregon State University, University of Oregon, Western University, and Portland State University. And then the last thing about Salem, Oregon that you might want to consider is going to be politics. Now, Salem is the capital city of Oregon, and as such, the Capitol building is here. So maybe if you're looking to get into politics, Salem could be a good area for you to consider, as all of the senators and legislators are here when they're in session. So if you're looking to work with one of them or for the government, Salem is a good spot to be because the state of Oregon is actually one of the bigger employers in Salem. I hope this video helped you come a little closer on your decision whether or not Salem is the right area for you to move. If you are thinking about moving to Salem, Oregon, feel free to give me a call, text, or an email, or even schedule a Zoom call with me. I'd be happy to help you make a smooth move to Salem, Oregon. But for the meantime, I hope to see you around town.